difficult now to. You haven't got all these territories now. Myself and Matt, and we're going to be bringing these shows to you guys on the upcoming podcast when we do our wrestling arts. But a lot of what we cover in the wrestling arts series is all around territories, and by and large, when you look back at the structure that was there, at least at the end of the or should I say about mid 80s at least, it was very healthy in terms of so many places to go and learn your trade, so many places to get over or become the big heel in a certain territory, light it up, and then move on, etc., etc. There isn't as much as that now, and it's very much TV driven. So you've got to forget as many doing house shows. It's all about TV, and unless you've got it very fast, Matt, you're going to find yourself in a lot of trouble. No matter how talented you are in the ring, it's just part and parcel of it. When we watched the series, Matt, I forgot what it was called now on the network, but it was obviously watching the stars and some of the guys that we now see from NXT have now gone up.
Breaking Ground.
That's right, Breaking Ground. Yeah, when we watch that program, Matt, and you see the development, is that when you watch that stuff, do you think that covers everything you want to see as far as a fan, and they're covering all the right bases? Because there's a lot of emphasis on the whole mic skills, as well as the wrestling, as well as creating a character. And when you see some of these guys, like, you can see how easy it is to get led on down a pathway that you can't come back from, and some small ideas come out of nowhere, and you can see it early on that it's a bad one. And but if the office tell you to do it, you're not really going to say no, as much as you're going to say yes, with a big company like WWE. So do you think there's sometimes there's a lot of pressure into getting that right, and do you think that they look at the right things to getting these guys ready for the future?
Um, yeah, I'd say it's incredibly difficult to come into the kind of company and be sort of a fresh face,
Sure.
because then you've got to build yourself up from scratch pretty much, and
Hmm.
you could be influenced by what the company want you to do and what they have ideas for you. I think the only way you can really strike gold in these situations is you've got to be your own person, be someone like Finn Balor, come in their own ideas, your own identity, and something that makes you completely unique. I do these days because there's been so many characters over the years, so many gimmicks, so many different things that now that have been used, and you could be classed as like rehashing something from the past. But if you come in like Finn Balor and you're someone completely unique, then you nailed it. But it's got to be incredibly hard to come in there with someone who's generic, because you pretty much you will be open to suggestions, and you could end up turning very generic as a wrestler.
Yeah, I think that's a good point that Matt brings up there, is about WWE signing guys that are already established characters elsewhere, and going along with that, such as a Shinsuke Nakamura or a Finn Balor, even though he had the name change slightly. There's that, and then there's also just giving a guy like a Tyler Breeze a completely new overhaul and look and all the rest of it, and going that route with it. It's interesting because, I mean, there's probably no right or wrong way of doing it. Just for the sheer fact, it's a lot of it is down to luck and the timing of everything. I mean, timing is essential, and if you've got something that's going to catch on with the fans, then you're onto a winner. But sometimes even that is not enough. Matt, they've signed a lot of stars to NXT recently. We've seen Roderick Strong, is one of the latest ones in there, and I've noticed they've got another two people from Mexico coming in as well, that are very established wrestlers down there. Just to speak a little bit about Mexico, Matt. Now, WWE, since, I mean, I don't know how long we've been speaking about this, but they've not managed to do a great job of the Mexican talent that they've signed thus far, and getting them sort of over on that main roster, like, bringing them through. They seem to have quite a lot of difficulties there. Do you think it's somewhat of a culture issue there, and and that could be the reason. Because I mean, again, you could argue, I suppose, for a long time that even the Japanese stars have had a difficult progression in WWE, and perhaps Shinsuke Nakamura is by far the most guy with the most potential that you think may break that trend for as long as it has been. But that they do have problems, Matt, in those circumstances, like whether it's identifying them with a character. I'm not too sure what it is. Have you got any feelings towards that?
No, I mean, I would kind of say it's been some incredibly, extraordinarily bad luck
Mm,
when it comes to the sort of Mexican wrestlers. I mean, I think they had huge plans for the original version of Sin Cara that came in, and
yep.
I was excited for that. I thought this was going to be the turning point, and that this would be the kind of next big thing since Rey Mysterio. I mean, obviously, like there have been successes like Rey Mysterio. That was a huge success, like one of the biggest merchandise shippers they've had. Um, that was great when he was there, but they kept him there and they just sort of held on to him for too long and didn't sort of pass that mantle on to the next kind of person.
Hmm.
I am a fan of the new kind of ones that they're bringing into to NXT. I mean, I like Cien Almas. I think
Yeah,
he's good.
yeah.
I really like him. I like his in-ring skill and the way he does things. I like his kind of character. I think but I don't think they give him enough time. It's like we see on SmackDown even. Kalisto's on there.
Hmm.
You barely see him.
Yeah.
They didn't really give him much airtime, and they put him in this kind of horrible kind of feud with Baron Corbin, and just let him get crushed by him.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something I've read about some of the Mexican stars that have tried, and one thing that always crops up, and it's not a knock on any Mexican wrestlers in general. I just think it might be part of the culture, and the way they see themselves is that when they're in Mexico, Matt, and CMLL and all the rest of it, and AAA and all that stuff. I mean, they're huge promotions in Mexico, and you are essentially a mega star to that crowd. And I think that whereas the Japanese talent, whenever they've come into WWE, they seem quite okay to just kind of get on and they I mean they know themselves they're going to have to take a back seat and start all over again. Whereas the Mexican wrestlers, I think because they've they're at a certain level by the time they get there, I think it can be quite underwhelming the fact that they're on NXT and they've got to kind of go through this performance center when they've kind of held crowds in the palm of their hands for so long. I think that I'm not saying it's for every wrestler that goes through comes from Mexico, but I think there is that possibility that that's happened in the past way too many times with certain wrestlers. So yeah, I think there's no right or right. Just to sum up this topic about performance and WWE creating stars, do you think that where we're at now that WWE is is giving enough of the push to the talent the right way, the same way as we would normally, or do you think that there's still a problem with the future for WWE? Because in my opinion, Matt, the way I'm looking at it, the way I see it on paper, is that there's so much talent. It's just a case of getting it right when they're on the main roster. I don't know what you think about that, but I'm not worried as much as wrestlers coming through. I think most wrestlers can work. Sometimes they work better than what WWE does half the time. That's sometimes the problem, that they can't do as much as they'd like. And you've got to get ready for this system of WWE, the world of WWE as it is. Do you see that the same way, or do you think that there is sort of a gaping hole of trying to find talent out there, the right talent?
I don't really. I kind of like the way that it is staying at NXT right now. I like the way they're doing things. I think it is a successful route. I think that if well, I wouldn't presume to know the ins and outs of the company, but I think it's one of the most practical ways of doing it for sure. But as that talent coming up so much, but I think it's doing a great job of actually preparing them anyway. Because I
Hmm.
think if someone like Sasha Banks, like or Charlotte or even Bailey, came on Raw just out of nowhere without going through all that system beforehand, they might be swamped. Like coming up against people like Nikki Bella and and the other like people that were already established at that time. I think it would have been easy to have them buried, by more established names. So I think going down there, making a huge name, like taking for example someone like Bailey, she needed NXT to get that kind of cult following before she even made it
Hmm.
up to the next roster. So I think it's not so much about scouting the talent because there's always been world class talent, and everybody knew for years and years that AJ Styles deserved his spot in WWE.
Hmm.
And all you have to do is like sort of reach out to people, and they will turn up. So as well as doing that, I mean that was the great unique thing about AJ. He didn't need to go through NXT, so there'll always be like humongous stars out there that you can just pick up the phone and call, and like that's what we see now with people like Goldberg as well, I suppose.
Yeah, Matt, let me just throw this. Just had a thought while you were saying that. Let me just ask you this, Matt. Is that I was just thinking then, do you think it's slightly a burden? We watch NXT and there might be fans out there that just watch the main show. So, okay, they don't, they've heard of Finn Balor, they've heard of Bailey, but they don't quite know their story from NXT. We do. Um, as an example, Matt, from what I see from Bailey currently, she's being portrayed as the underdog again, which was how
Yeah.
she was being portrayed in NXT. And I've got a feeling, I'm not totally, sure about it, but I've got a feeling they're going to try and do the same on the WWE main roster, and we're going to see this, knockdown, 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 and then finally she's going to be established. Whereas because we've watched NXT, we've seen the rise, and we're with her all the way. We think that she should be right at the top. Do you think that's a slight burden for the fans that are watching both products currently? Because it's just my way of thinking. I'm not sure because I don't know anybody that just watches the main show, but I'd be interested to know if any of our listeners do, and what they and how they perceive things is the way we do, because obviously we're watching everything, and I just feel like sometimes maybe they try and they redo things, a lot of what they're going to do on NXT, such as maybe even Enzo and Cass. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I can definitely see that as well. I mean, I see how they do try and create a perfect moment more than once.
Hmm.
They really hope lightning can strike twice.
Sure.
I'm getting a sneaking suspicion that when you're talking about Bailey, we may end up seeing the Sasha Bailey number 3 in the
Mm.
hopes that it can sort of recreate that magic. But you know, if people want to see it, it's already there. It's on the network. They can go back and watch that match. They don't have to
Mm.
wait until like whatever huge event they want this at, say WrestleMania or whatever they want to put this on stage at. It's already been done. And for a lot of people that saw it the first time, it's never as good the second time round, is it?
No, I was going to say that you can never recapture that. It's almost impossible. Even the great Undertaker and Shawn Michaels a year later could not do as good as a match as they did first time round. So it just goes to show you. But anyway, I thought we'd spend some time talking about that because we'd had lots of interest from our fans. Don't forget, guys, if you want to get in touch with us, email us at the Wrestling Skull Podcast at gmail.com. Um, Gives us a little time now just to give you guys a heads up of what's going to be going on next week. We're going to have, of course, the Hell in a Cell review. Again, another review on the podcast going out on Monday. And also following that, straight away, interview with RJ Singh, who returns back on the show. And first time we've interviewed him since he's been back wrestling as well. He's going to be talking all about his return and some of the promotions that he's now working for. So really looking forward to having RJ back on the show. And yeah, it's going to be a double bill next week, Matt. So loads of content going out for that one. Want to talk about last week's Raw now, Matt. In particular, Goldberg's return. Had quite a lot of feedback to this, mainly positive, I've got to say. What did you think of the comeback, Matt? Your impressions of it, because I know we spoke last week. We were maybe a little bit worried, and what are they going to put Goldberg on the stick? How do you think he came across, and do you think it was a good reaction overall?
I think it was okay. but that's the problem when it's just okay. It wasn't as explosive as I was hoping it was going to be. I was definitely hoping for him to say a few more controversial things about Brock, because for me particularly, the match isn't that exciting anyway. I'm not really like on the edge of my seat waiting for this